I'll do my very best to get this job that I so crave.
I feel like that's how everybody entering Fanzone debate feels. They're like, yeah, I'll do my very best to get this win that I so crave. And then they start yelling at each other, and then it gets all fiery. Hello, welcome to the latest episode of Fanzone Debate. We're here in the Fanzone Debate tournament. Very excited. It's been a lot of fun so far. And we have match number 3 of the tournament. We got Cameron Holzmann, the number 3 seed, going up against the number 14 seed, Andrew Barr. Both very good competitors. Barr has had a string of bad luck. He's played a lot of really, really great people. I think he played Kirk at one point. He played Tuig at one point. He's taken some losses against really, really exceptional players. But he's a great debater himself. And then there's Holtzmann, who kind of came out swinging when he debuted against some great players as well. He beat Coho, and I believe he made it all the way to a number 1 contenders match. And so he's had his fair share of great wins as well, and his losses have been against great players as well. So this is going to be exciting. I think the seedings are far apart, but I think these guys are a lot more evenly matched in debate than the seedings would suggest. So I think it's going to be a good one. We got Brian Michaels here. Brian, you missed the last one. How dare you? But you're back. How are you doing?
And you can't even accuse me of skipping it because it was just scheduling a date I wasn't available. But yeah, I'm here for this one. I think this will be fun. I mean, Andrew likes to be self-deprecating. Even before this match, just now backstage, he was talking about having his ass handed to him. But he does in trivia as well, and both in trivia and debate, he does very well. So, as much as he puts on a front of humility, he's very good. And Cameron, Cameron is kind of the opposite to me. I think he seems to have a little bit more, relaxed attitude. But when I've seen him debate, he's pretty good. He does his research. He gets pretty intense in his arguments, and I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I agree. Kirk, you're here for this one. How are you feeling? You're muted. You and Cody been hanging out too much.
I'm excited for this match. I think that Andrew and Holtzmann, both guys known for being a little more on the mild-mannered end of things. They're not loud, they're not yellers under most circumstances. So hopefully today they bring the worst out of each other and we see what they can do.
That's fair. It's always that would be nice. All right, we're gonna bring in the lower seeded player first, Andrew Barr, the number 14 seed. Barr, like we've said, you've gone up against a lot of opponents. You're a mild-mannered dude until you get arguing. Do you think you're gonna have some explosions this evening, or do you think you will be mild-mannered?
We'll find out. Short
and sweet. Yeah.
Good. I don't know. I'm not good with words in general, so I don't know why I'm even I don't know how I'm even ranked. So
yeah, that's fair. Let's bring in the number 3 seed, Cameron Holtzmann. Cameron, welcome. Number 3 seed of the tournament. You're taking on Barr. How are you feeling?
I feel good. Yeah. Barr, I think is Barr being the 14 seed, I think is weird because I think he's much better than that number makes him out to be. I think he's a very strong debate competitor. I think he knows what he knows. But I bring something unique to the table, and that unique thing I bring to the table is picking answers that no one could care less about. I was asked who is the most frustrating character in all of fandom, and who did I pick? I picked Turbo. And I managed to get 1 out of 3 votes in that debate.
It's impressive.
That did happen.
I am able to do fights when I don't watch the movies and don't know anything about it. I beat Rue in a fight about the Rush Hour movies back when I hadn't seen the Rush Hour movies and only watched the 2 scenes that were the subject of the debate. Yeah, I did debate in high school, or not in high school, but in junior high, and I take those concepts. And then I continue doing debate in junior high. And by that, I mean, I write my debate notes when I should be actively teaching junior high students in a classroom. I was doing that today. I did it yesterday. Did a lot of this during that time. Hopefully it pays off for me and not for my students.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, let's get into it. Here's how this is going to work. The players drafted categories, and then I gave them some questions based off those categories. They're going to debate them tonight before our very souls. So they get 1 minute to open their argument, followed by a 5-minute freeform, followed by a 1-minute closing. At the end of the debate, Kirk, Brian, and I are going to write on our handy-dandy boards who we think won that point. Best 2 out of 3 votes wins you the point, and the first person to 3 points wins the match. Gentlemen, do you have any questions before we get into it?
No.
All right, let's do it. All right, your first question is coming in the category of coming of age. It was drafted by Mr. Holzmann. The question is, what 2010s coming of age film has the best lead character? Holzmann, you drafted this. That means you get to go first. You are going to get 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking, and I will come in to give you a 10-second warning when the time comes. So whenever you're ready, take it away.
I think when it comes to a coming of age movie, the thing you want more than anything else is you want a character you relate to, and you want a character who grows. You want them to actually come of age during the events of the film. And I think no character undergoes a relatable and enjoyable and complete arc more than Charlie from The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Charlie at the beginning of the movie is shown to be just that, a wallflower. He is shy, he is quiet, he doesn't know where he fits in. He is relatable to the experiences that most of us had when we were his age. But through time, through meeting with his new friends, through just being himself, he is able to become this person who knows his place in the world. He never has to change who he is. He never has to change what he is being, what he is doing. He just needs people to show him who he is and what his place is. And just by being himself, he is able to bring this light, bring this empathy. He is a stern defender of his friends. He stands up for the things he believes in. He stands up for himself. For what is right. He is always himself, and he shows us this through his growth journey.
Time. Okay. We're going to move over to Barr. Barr, you have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
I think Herman made some really good points of what you want to see in a character in a coming of age film. You want to see them grow. You want to see them develop. And I don't think there's a character from the 2010s as the lead that does a better job of being developed that way than Malcolm and Dope. This is a kid who is constantly bullied, probably doesn't stand up for himself that often, but through a lot of trials and tribulations, learns how to stand up for himself, learns how to defend himself, especially when his friends and family are put in harm's way. We see him grow as a person. We see him make decisions that an adult in that situation may not even do a good job in making themselves. So I think that Malcolm is the best character in a 2010s coming of age film, and I yield my time.
Okay. All right, you guys get 5 minutes of freeform time now. When one of you starts talking, I will come in, or I will put a banner up with the 1 minute warning, and then I will come up for a 10-second warning. If anybody is being a little too long-winded, or it's time to move on to a new point, I will throw up the let's move on. And then if you still don't shut up, I will come in and beat you with a stick. So 5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
So I think the biggest problem with Malcolm is he actually really doesn't undergo that much of a growth arc. You say that he learns to stand up for himself, learns to fight for himself, but he's shown at the very beginning taking stands against the bullies, taking his shoes back when they try to fight against him, doing all of these things that stand up to them. And in doing so, when we are established in the beginning that the things that matter most to him are his family and his friends, he actually regresses from that point and repeatedly abandons his friends, abandons his family, doesn't take care of his mom, and neglects the people around him when that is set to be one of the core tenets of his character, and he just doesn't follow them throughout the events of the film.
I'm not quite sure where you're getting that he doesn't care for his mom. When he has the opportunity to basically tell her what's happening and essentially possibly put her in harm's way, he decides that he's going to take responsibility for himself. And that's what he's doing. He's not abandoning his friends. He's taking responsibility and trying to keep them out of harm's way. Where with your character, he's not really that interesting until like the second half of the movie. Sam and Patrick are much more developed, interesting, and stronger characters than Charlie.
See, but the thing I think is when it comes to Malcolm and abandoning his friends and stuff like that, is telling his mom when these people are after him, when they are putting him in danger, he willfully and knowingly does not tell her that she is in a position where she could be in danger, such as when he gets on the bus, and allows her to just think everything is fine, where he could give her that extra level of protection by telling her. As well, Charlie has a lot of interesting things about him. Sure, he is not the most like outwardly dynamic, outwardly expressive person, but that doesn't mean that he's not a good character. He represents the anxieties, the internal feelings, the awkwardness, the shyness that a lot of people that character's age, that are in high school, that are in junior high, that are coming of age, feel in their lives, and represents that through finding your people, through finding your place, you too can grow. You too can have this arc. You can meet these friends that are the perfect weirdos that you need. And as much as those friends might be more necessarily dynamic than him, that doesn't make them better characters.
Charlie kind of takes on the personalities of his friends for the first half of the film. He doesn't necessarily have his own. He's a wallflower, and he's finding these people that he connects with, but he's trying so hard to be like them that he's not being his own character. Malcolm, he's funny, he's smart, he's passionate about the things that he's very passionate about, and he's just a better developed character in that regard.
See, but it's almost impossible to root for Malcolm because within the events of the film, undeniably, Malcolm at one point profits financially off of the exploitation of a woman who he provided drugs to, that he was in the midst of a sexual encounter with, and doesn't feel any remorse about these actions. When we are supposed to root for this character who is actively profiting off of something like that, who is supposed to be relatable, supposed to be the good guy, supposed to be forced into the situation, and actively makes the choice to use this woman's humiliating situation, this woman who he had that kind of relationship with, it makes him near impossible to root for in these moments, despite his circumstances. Charlie, sure, he's doing the things that his friends do. He's engaging in activities with them. We all in high school did things with our friends that were their interests and not necessarily ours. It didn't become our personality. It was things we did. You can see when he's doing Rocky Horror with his friends, his personality is not different. He's still coming through as himself, but he's doing the thing they want to do. He's joining them in their situations, but still being himself, letting himself shine through. He allows himself to take the reins at different moments. He stands up for his friends. When his friends are being bullied, he stands up for them, not just verbally, but physically, and is willing to fight for them literally. Despite all of the things that he's been through, despite the bullying, despite all the trauma in his past, he can overcome that and grow. Like you said at the beginning, echoing my thing, growth is the very best thing, and he becomes more interesting, more dynamic, and more fully fleshed out as the story goes on because he's growing.
Yeah, and Malcolm does the same thing. What you call as like it's not that he doesn't have regret for the actions that he's forced to do in those situations. Shamik Moore gives such an amazing performance that you can see the regret on his face when he's kind of forced into these situations, especially in the scene where he also stands up physically for himself and his friends when he pulls his gun out on the bullies. You see just the hurt in the fact that he's doing that, but he's doing it because he's protecting his friends. Whereas Charlie, honestly, he is such the definition of a wallflower. I was a wallflower in high school. I was a boring person. I had zero development as a person. Patrick and Sam are so richly developed as characters that they're better than the lead character in your
The question
movie.
is not which character is outshined by the supporting characters. It's who's the best, and he's better than yours.
Better than yours. Strike it from the record.
It was in time on my screen.
So we're gonna go to Barr first for his closing. Barr, you get a 1-minute closing when you start talking.
Malcolm is the better, fully developed character from the beginning of the film to the end of the film. He's a more interesting character. He's a more dynamic character. You see the growth from the beginning to end. He's a different person at the end, whereas he was selfish in kind of that term paper that he was gonna write, just thinking about the things that he likes instead of who he became as a person that you see him writing finally and realizing at the end. Whereas with Charlie, he's not really that interesting until the second half of the movie. He's not the best character for the full film. Sam and Patrick are much more developed, much more fleshed out than the lead character of that film. And with that, I'm going to yield my time.
Okay. We're going to bring in Holzmann, not Barr again, Holzmann, for his 1 minute closing when you start talking.
Barr is spending a lot of time talking about the supporting characters, but that's not what this question is about. It's about what film has the best lead character. Charlie represents all of us. He represents who we are, who we felt we are, and who we can become. He represents the hope that we all can feel. He has this dynamic character arc. He starts as this wallflower, sure, but he still has this personality. He still has this trauma from his past that is overcoming. And the more times you watch it, the more you understand where he's coming from and why he is that way. But he is able to grow. He is able to become a newer, better person through his friends. Malcolm is consistently taking actions that go against the core character that he is set up to be. He is set up to be this nerd. He is set up to be this person that stands up for his friends, stands up for his family, but repeatedly throughout the movie, he betrays his friends, he betrays his family, all in the hopes of pursuing girls, pursuing his own interests, pursuing the things that he likes over the people that should matter to him most. Charlie is the empathy, the us, the everyone. As much as Malcolm represents a group that hadn't been represented before in film, he does not do a good job and does a lot of bad, negative actions that betray the character.
Okay. We are going to bring in the judges. I'm sorry, Bucky, that I moved. My God.
Barr did a mean thing by picking a movie I really like.
Yeah, that's
You
fair.
did the same thing, jackass.
I wrote a video essay about dope for university last semester.
Amazing.
And specifically about the character.
Oh, I'm at a disadvantage.
You should have dug that up and used it as evidence, Andrew.
Right?
All right. You guys good?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna go first. I thought this was very good. I enjoyed this off the bat. I think this is gonna be we're in for a good debate. This was tough. I think they both brought a lot of really good positives to both of their characters. I liked Holtzmann's kind of stab back at Barr, where he's saying just because he's like doing the things that the friends are doing, does he still has his personality and he still is his own character. Like I thought that was a good hit back. But I think Barr's jab about, the character isn't that interesting. You're more interested in those side characters. They're the more fleshed out characters. I thought Holtzmann tried to put that down by saying, the question's not about the side characters, but I think that is relevant when you're looking at the character as a whole, if it's being outshined by, the other characters. So I thought this was good. I ultimately, slimmest of margins, I did go with Barr. I thought that Barr's overall, especially his closing, which he did in a record time, I should add, by the way, too. I thought his closing was very strong, where he was able to put down a lot of what Holtzmann was saying on the negatives of Malcolm. And I thought Barr his closing was just a bit stronger. Holtzmann repeated himself a lot in his closing. It didn't have as much substance. Like he kept going on about it. We're all that character. That doesn't matter. To me, it didn't matter to me, but it was really close. I thought it was a really good fight. I'm excited for the rest of this match. Brian, where did you vote?
Honestly, I agree with Andrew's pick as the more interesting character, but based on the debate, I voted for Cameron. I just felt that he had a lot more to support his argument. I think that Andrew tried to jump onto how his character is more interesting for the entire movie, whereas Cameron's is only like in the second half of the movie. But I think that actually just played into Cameron's argument, because a character can be, interesting and become interesting as the movie goes on. He talks about the arc and the change he goes through and everything. And I think that just actually helped support Cameron's argument.
Okay. So Kirk, you're deciding this one. Where are you going?
It was a good argument. I think it was interesting because they kind of had two different philosophies. Like Barr was my guys more interesting from Drum Street. Your guys gets less interesting as we, until we get to later in the movie. And Cameron's, was my guy grows into himself and becomes more interesting, so that makes him better. So I thought that was an interesting perspective on both sides. Ultimately, we were getting a lot of, the character does this, doesn't do this, represents this. And as someone who's seen both these movies and doesn't remember, honestly, much about either of them, like I wasn't getting a lot of evidence. So that's what tipped me over. I did ultimately go with Barr because I feel that he gave me just a little bit more actual specifics. And Holtzmann did a good job of trying to, argue those down. But I think Barr defends them well enough to put him over the edge.
It's going to be that match where I
Reminder
win the
that
points I
Andrew Barr
don't
never
think.
disproved my claims that Malcolm is maybe technically a sex criminal, but
This is going to be a match where I win the points I don't think that I should have won, and I lose the points that I think I should have won.
All right, so Barr wins question number 1. We're going to move into question number 2, which was drafted by Barr. It's in the category of Law and Order. The question is, what is the coolest action scene in a Law and Order film? Brian, this one's for you. So we're going to start off with Barr. Barr, you get 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
So I think that a really cool action scene needs to have a lot of things going for it. It needs to have witty dialogue. It needs to have really well-timed and choreographed action. And it has to have stakes. That's what the fiery construction sites fight in Lethal Weapon 3 has. So basically, they're going up against Jack Travis, who is an ex-cop who has been basically committing these crimes in like the shadows. And so they find him at the construction site that he's basically building when suddenly gunshots start going off. Riggs starts driving a truck through the construction. Murtaugh fires his gun and he lights fucking gas on fire, and the whole place goes up into like a fiery inferno. And there's a fight. There's axes being thrown. There's fists being flown. It's just a knockdown, drag out, badass fight scene. And I give my time.
Okay. We're going to move over to Holtzmann, who has 1 minute to open his argument when he starts talking.
So I think that what makes an action scene cool in a movie is seeing things that you've never seen done before and seeing them done in a really interesting and really dynamic way. And I think that the helicopter chase into the blackout tunnel sequence up until the point where the helicopter is taken down by the car in Live Free or Die Hard is the coolest action scene in a Law and Order film. The scene effectively does an incredible job of setting up Oliphant as a cold and calculated villain who knows exactly what he's doing. But not only does it do that, but it gives you some really cool, really interesting action sequences. You have the slow build of the helicopter chase into this big action sequence. You have the blackout tunnel where all of a sudden the lights go out and it dawns on you what's about to happen, and the absolute carnage, absolute wreckage hits. And it's something that you really haven't seen before and haven't seen since in a movie. As much as you might have car crashes, you've never seen them in a situation like this. You have the car being launched to the helicopter, which is this absolutely big, massive moment that you haven't seen. You have the them hitting a fire hydrant in the drive and having this gust of water and this fire hydrant in the sky, taking out a helicopter and all this other stuff.
Time. All right. Gentlemen, you have 5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
Okay, so first of all, your scene is, it's trying to be a scene from the Fast and the Furious. It's not even trying to be a Die Hard scene. So we've kind of seen scenes like that. Also, the editing in your film is absolutely atrocious, and it takes you out of the moment, and it doesn't take you in for the ride. Whereas mine, the editing is really well paced. The camera work is moving with the action and is capturing everything. Plus, the fact that they are in a construction site with lots of framework creates incredibly cool visuals with that being on fire.
So the thing is, I fully disagree with you. You're saying that the camera has these long, great takes. There is a moment in your scene where all Riggs has to do is run and jump over a gap that's maybe 2 feet wide, and it's cut like the scene in Taken 3 where Liam Neeson has to jump over a fence. It is 13 damn cuts all at once just so that he can jump this tiny little gap and run towards a guy. Sure, there's some fire around. Awesome. Fire hasn't been cool since 10,000 BC when the caveman discovered it, Barr. You say it's witty. You say that being witty is something that a scene needs. No, it doesn't. Witty and cool are two different things. And even then, Lethal Weapon 3 is trying way too hard with all of its quips, all of its jokes. They're firing off one every 20 seconds, and most of them don't land, and it just diminishes the scene. You say it needs stakes. You say that stakes are important. The stakes of Live Free or Die Hard is the entire freedom of the United States of America being at risk. Yours is, this guy's committing some crimes, and oh, look, a fire. Oh, no. What will we do? You also claim it's trying too hard to be Fast and the Furious. This was released before Fast and Furious got into that territory. If anything, Fast and the Furious is copying it because they saw it and they thought it was that damn cool.
The stakes keep getting raised because he keeps getting away, and you're telling me that the line "Go to hell, you first" isn't cool? Screw you! You're lying to yourself. The multiple cuts thing that you bring up, I want to bring up the moment where your guy falls out of the helicopter, and it's cut, 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 cut. So the other thing that my scene has that increases the coolness is the practical effects. The CGI in when that one car flips over into the other two cars is awful. It is so unrealistic that it's just like really bad to look at.
I'm
The
sorry, but
elevator
you're
scene is better.
saying practical effects as though there's anything more than a fire and an incredibly slow-moving bulldozer. Like, it's not like a guy gets lit on fire and is running around and all of this stuff. That's not something cool that happens in your scene. There's just fire in the background that's never utilized. Characters are going against their motivations, where Riggs's motivation in this scene is set up to be protecting people, protecting and avenging Lorna, and then he nearly kills Riggs multiple times. It just diminishes the character, and it takes away from the movie and the coolness at hand. Again, you're saying, sure, you might have one cool line. You also have the incredibly cringy and uncool line of, "I'm going to eat your fucking heart." That's not a cool line. It sounds stupid. Yes. It sounds absolutely ridiculous. You have in Live Free or Die Hard in this tunnel, this big, incredible stakes. You have these visuals you have never seen before. You have it still being actually really good looking, despite the fact that it's incredibly low light. You have these characters in danger that is real, both immediate and overarching, because even if they get out of this, they are still set up and building that there's this bigger, scarier danger that is so interesting and so well crafted by Timothy Oliphant's character that is very interesting, very cool to hear, very cool that we haven't seen before.
I'm sorry, Maggie Q's character is way more interesting than Timothy Oliphant's character. His character is so boring. You brought up the lack of practical effects. Well, first of all, those fight scenes are really legit. Also, the scene where Murtaugh like just chucks a hatchet into a guy, fucking badass moment. I don't feel any tension from yours because it's so staged. I've seen so many movies with like giant car wrecks. It's not funny. The Blues Brothers does that way better.
Yes, but we haven't seen a car wreck in which it is in a tunnel where all the lights go out, and the only lights you are seeing in the entire situation are the headlights of vehicles coming head on towards our heroes, and they have to get out of this situation. And not only are our heroes there, but there's regular people in danger that they are trying to save and setting up these cool images. And then you have the ingenuity. As much as it might seem crazy and ridiculous, you cannot deny that it is badass to watch John McClane from Die Hard get into a car and slam it into a helicopter to make it explode, whereas Riggs shoots a bullet at a bulldozer directly in front of it where the barrel of the bulldozer blocks it, and then he does it 10 more times. Riggs is established to be smarter than that throughout these movies, but he's just being stupid and ridiculous. It lessens the impact, the action, the direction, the wit that you're trying to go for, lessens the impact of what could be a cooler scene, but it just never lives up to its potential.
Time. All right, Holtzmann, you get to close first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
In the flaming construction site fight from Lethal Weapon 3, it consistently undercuts itself through bad editing, bad action, bad witty jokes, and using character motivations that then get betrayed moment after moment after moment. It gets way too divided, having these characters go on completely separate things and not have one unified way to go. The blackout tunnel and the helicopter chase in Live Free or Die Hard does an effective job of setting up our villain, how powerful he is, how interesting he is, how cool his abilities against people are, where it's not just a guy with guns anymore. It's someone with much better smarts who is way more interesting. It poses this physical threat, this mental threat. It constantly ramps up and gets cooler and cooler and cooler, where it starts as just a simple car chase. Then you have the blowing of the fire hydrants that are attacking this helicopter. You have the building of the tension in the tunnel as the lights go out, and it just ramps up and gets cooler and cooler and cooler. The action gets bigger and badder and amazing and more badass. And it all ramps up to this final cool moment with great, incredible stunt work. As much as some of it's CGI, the practical work in it is phenomenal.
Time. Okay. Bring in Barr for his closing. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
You know, Cam would have made a great closing argument if he had chosen the elevator scene from Live Free or Die Hard, because everything that he's saying is equal to that. Whereas the choppy editing, the ugly cinematography, the just utter ridiculously bad practical effects in the blackout tunnel scene take you out of the moment because you don't feel any real danger. And that adds to what makes a scene really cool. You actually believe that these people are fighting just surrounded by fire that can fall on them at any minute in my scene. Plus, you got the badass fucking lines of cop killer, ex-cop killer. I don't even remember the name of the villain in Live Free or Die Hard. So I don't fucking care about that scene. I care more about what's going to happen to Riggs and Murtaugh, and that draws me in and makes it a lot cooler because of it.
Time. All right. Please.
Maybe you'd remember his name if you were better at Fandom.
Thomas Gabriel.
I want that stricken from the record.
Or did more
I want
research.
that stricken from the record.
Also, yes, I did know his name.
That is good.
Mm-hmm. I'm ready.
All right, Kirk, you're kicking it. Or no, Brian, I'm sorry, you're kicking it. No, it is Kirk.
No, it's
I'm
Kirk.
sorry.
Yeah, last time.
It is Kirk. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, this was an interesting fight. I think they both did a good job. I think we got, I always say superlative questions are tough because it's a very specific thing you have to focus on, and it's easy to get kind of lost in the woods is what you're talking about things that don't really focus on the the question at hand. That's only natural. But I do think when it comes down to a lot of times with a question, I guess what's the coolest thing, I just sit back and listen and think, okay, what sounds the coolest? Who's doing the best job of making me feel like this is a cool scene? And ultimately, I think I went to Cam. I think that Cam did a really good job of selling the scene, of talking about, acting up and focusing more on just how cool it is. Barr talked a lot about editing, things like that. And I mean, that's all legit, but I think Cameron stayed on track a little better. And I think that's impressive because I'm sure Cameron really doesn't think this scene's that cool. So I think he did a great job.
I got first pick on this. It was my first choice.
So I will, so I'm going with Cam.
Okay. I also went with Cam. I thought that Barr started really strong when in his opening talking about the things you need to make up like a cool action scene and everything. I was pretty on board. And then once the main round started, I thought Holzmann did a really good job of just kind of really picking apart Barr's scene. Every time Barr had something against the Live Free or Die Hard scene, Cam was able to come back and point out something that was wrong with Barr's that was very similar to the problem he was saying is bad. And so it worked for me. I thought Cam won this pretty handedly, actually. Brian, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone?
I just love this category is in Fandom now.
Yep.
Get to hear some good debates on some good movies. Yeah, I mean this is a tough one because I mean I like both these movies. I would not have picked either of these scenes as the best. In there are so many better scenes, but I think that they're
not best. It was coolest, and I would like
coolest.
to clarify.
Even coolest though. Even coolest
best by any means.
I will say that Andrew tried to make some hits on Cameron's, and like they already said, especially Kirk, that Cameron was able to shoot down most of those. I was kind of screaming at my screen when Andrew talked about Fast and the Furious that only 1 through 3 had been out at this point, but Cameron, of course, managed to say the exact same thing to him, so he shot down that idea. Andrew talked about the practical effects in his, and Cameron kind of shot that down and saying it's nothing but fire and a slow bulldozer, things like that. I do think that Cameron, while he did a good job supporting his, he missed some easy stuff. I mean, he talked about how the headlights and stuff, it was lit by the headlights of incoming cars. That was really cool. I think if he had talked more about how the fact that he released traffic going both ways in that tunnel, that initially made it cool. But even without that point that he did not include, I still give it to Cameron.
All right, clean sweep for Mr. Holtzman.
I'm just glad I got to make my Taken 3 jab.
Also, I don't believe either of these two love either of those
Taken
movies.
3.
What'd you say, Brian?
I said also I don't believe either of these two love either of those movies.
That's fair.
If I had watched Live Free or Die Hard before prepping for this match, I would have picked the elevator scene. I'm not kidding. That scene is awesome.
Tim, before we move on, can we take a break real quick? I got to take a call real fast.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
All right, we are back. We are going to move on to the third question of the debate. It was drafted by Holzmann in the category of the Wizarding World. The question is, what Harry Potter character would make the worst roommate? We also said no creatures, because that one time we said what Middle-earth character would make the worst roommate, and somebody picked Shelob, and we had to take it because I was dumb and didn't say none of that. So no Basilisk, no Aragog, none of that shit. Gentlemen,
pick the Niffler because he steals all your shit.
Yeah, you can't do that. No. So, Holtzmann, you get to kick this off. You get 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
I think that the things that you want in a roommate are you want someone who's going to give you your own space, someone who's going to be a friend, but still respect your own boundaries, someone who can contribute, someone who can add to the environment, both not just financially and helping pay the rent, but also someone that you enjoy living with, that you will have a good conversation with, that you'll have a good time with. And I can think of no one who fulfills less of those criteria than Moaning Myrtle. Moaning Myrtle, if you don't remember, is the notably perverted ghost that haunts the second floor bathroom of Hogwarts. She is a ghost. She is not capable of getting a job. She is not capable of paying rent. She is known for simply crying all of the time, to the point where her canon name that she is known by within the series is all about how much she cries and makes so much noise that will be unpleasant to live with. She can float through walls, and as we see in Goblet of Fire, is a noted pervert peeking on Harry Potter in the bathroom. So you will not have your own personal space. She will violate it at all times, whether you're just trying to be with yourself or with your significant other. Any possible pros you can think of, she doesn't have them whatsoever.
With yourself, huh? Okay. Barr, you get 1 minute when you start talking.
My opponent is right. You do want someone who's going to give you space. You do want someone who's going to respect you. You do want someone who's going to help you out with everything. That ain't Dolores Umbridge, my guys. And let me tell you what. Not only is this person a fascist who's going to try to push their fascist views on you, but every chance they get, they're going to judge the shit out of you. Anytime you try to put a drink down and it's not a coaster, all you're going to hear is, mm-hmm. And you're just immediately going to just be like, I don't want to be fucking here. She's going to make you want to leave after the first fucking week. Plus, her taste is disgustingly horrific. You are going to hate the way your place looks, but she's going to force you to make it look that way because she wants it that way, not because you both want it that way. And I will yield my time.
Okay. These are two great picks. Gentlemen, 5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
All right, here's the thing. I am a young man in my 20s, but there's one thing that I'm really not good at. I'm going to list several, actually. Cleaning my own room in my own apartment, making food for myself, ensuring that I am well taken care of and that I am healthy. Dolores Umbridge has a lot of motherly instincts. If we look at her own personal spaces and her career as a teacher, she has the ability and the training to take care of people. She is neat and tidy. She will clean spaces to the point where she might be a bit obsessive about it, but that means she'll clean my room for me. That's less work for me to do. As well, she has a cushy, full-time government job. That woman is making bank and is absolutely contributing to the rent. And not only is she contributing to the rent, but she's contributing the lion's share. And whether she's professor at Hogwarts, which means she's away and out of your apartment for 9 months of the year, or at her government job at the ministry where she's out of your house for most of the day, either way, she's not really around that much to bother you.
And she's going to hold the fact that she works in the government above your head every fucking chance that she can. You think that she's not going to force me to do more work because of that? She's absolutely going to do that. Plus, hey, you want to know why a lot of people move out of their parents' house? Because they find their mother, as much as they love them, insufferable. Moaning Myrtle, as long as you just sit down and talk with them, they'll be a lot easier to deal with. They're probably a lot more personable than
Harry has
Dolores
multiple sit-down talking conversations with Moaning Myrtle within the first couple of movies, but that doesn't stop her from creeping on him while he's in the bathtub and clearly going under the water when he's got bubbles blocking all his business. She still pervs on him, still giggles at him, does not understand the concept of personal space. He even has that conversation with her, tells her, hey, it's a little weird that you're here. Does she care? Not at all. You can tell her whatever you want. And not only is she perverted ghost, but she's perverted ghost with the looks, appearance, and voice of an underaged girl. Doesn't matter how old this ghost is. That just adds to how uncomfortable this factor is. Dolores Umbridge, as well, you made the argument earlier, she's a fascist. She's loyal to the people she's loyal with. And if she's your roommate, you're one of those people. She will protect you. She will defend you. She is on your side if you are good enough to be her roommate. And she will stand up for you against the forces that are coming after you, no matter who they may be.
She's only good to you if you agree with every fucking thing that she says. That is not a roommate that I can work with. With Myrtle, she's personable. We can, as I said,
how is she personable? All she does is cry.
You had your time, sir. With Dolores Umbridge, she, as I said, she is going to hold everything over your head and use that to her advantage. She's a manipulative person. And if she's not forcing you to do things with her manipulation, she's forcing my blood to do the work for her. So if she's gone and I want to have a day off, I'm not getting that fucking day off. I'm in pain moving into pink curtains onto the wall. Myrtle's not going to do that.
First of all, if Dolores Umbridge isn't in your presence, she actually can't use magic on you. That's one of the main rules, is that magic does have a distance limit. So if she's not there like she is for 9 months of the year when she's working at Hogwarts, or if she's out at her government job, she can't do those things to you. Number two, as much as she is very strict and sometimes cruel to the children, that is because she's put in a position where that is her job. That is what she is required to do. And while she has resorted to these extreme methods, you are on her side, and you are not planning a revolt against the government that she believes at the time is correct. You are working with her. You are being nice to her. You are not committing what are actively considered to be crimes against her and the people that she works with. You've mentioned these things about the decoration. You have, Bart, look at your room. Your room, nice, your one room. You have your own space in your apartment. If she wants to have her own decorations in some places, that's fine. That doesn't mean you can't get away from it. You have your personal space. She contributes to the space. She contributes things to you. Moaning Myrtle has nothing to contribute. There is only negatives from her that are either creepy, annoying, or both.
Honestly, because Moaning Myrtle doesn't have all that stuff, I get to design the place the way that I want to design it. And I will talk to her, and I will get her thoughts on whether she likes something or not. With Dolores Umbridge, she's nitpicky. As I said, if you even drop a crumb on the floor, immediately you're on her shit list. So don't try to pull this, oh, she's nice to you if you do this with her. Right away, she's going to judge the shit out of me. I'm a sloppy person. Myrtle's not going to fucking care about that. Plus, aside from some high water bills, there's no extra food. I don't have to pay extra for heat. I don't have to pay extra for cable.
But you got to pay full rent.
Time. All right. So, Barr, you get to close first on this one. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Moaning Myrtle has their problems, but guess what? A lot of roommates have their problems. Not as many problems as I would have with Dolores Umbridge. I cannot tell you, if I want to bring a girl over, she's going to judge the shit out of her immediately. And the girl I bring over is going to be like, I don't know if I want to be here. I'm just going to leave. And then your night's ruined and she's satisfied with everything that she's just done. Myrtle may like peep in every once in a while, but she's not going to like essentially kick her out with just her words. Myrtle is someone that when you talk to them, you can find common agreements as long as you're both really polite with each other. Dolores Umbridge is just going to judge the shit out of you. She's going to hold her power against you. She's going to just keep bringing up her fascist ideas over and over again to you and drive me crazy and want me to leave. I would want to leave after the first week.
Okay. All right. We'll bring in Holzmann. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Dolores Umbridge is not a fascist. She is a loyalist trying to quell an insurrection against her and the people that she is working with, who she believes are doing the right things. She will be loyal to you and loyal to the people she is with. You say she is mean to everyone. She's not. We can see her being loving to Draco, to all of her followers within the school who are helping her and who are on her side. You say that you don't have a person to pay for food when you're with Moaning Myrtle. Dolores Umbridge is a kind older woman who will gladly make you food. She makes tea for her students, whether they're in pain or whether she maybe has some ulterior motives. You have your own space. Dolores has her office, but she doesn't make the rest of Hogwarts all of this cat and all of this pink, even when she becomes the headmaster. She has magic to clean up after you, even if you're a messy person. You say you can't have your person over when Dolores Umbridge is there. She's gone 9 months out of the year when she's working at Hogwarts. Moaning Myrtle, sure, she doesn't have the power and the physical ability to kick your partner out of the house, but she has the ability to sit in the corner and watch you through the walls with the appearance of an underage child who pays no rent and cries. Think about it.
Time.
Silence.
I was between two, and you picked neither of them, and it made my job hard down to pick.
Who was the other one out of curiosity?
Fenrir Greyback.
Ooh,
A werewolf who eats children. But he can pay rent.
Shut up. All right, Brian.
This is one of those matches where it's like, I really don't hate you, Andrew, but I did vote for Cam. I felt his debate was a little stronger. I think that both of them supported their own arguments very well. I think that Andrew made a lot of points that Cameron was able to shoot down, but I don't think Andrew did as good a job of shooting down Cameron's points. The things like the fact that she is gone for 9 months. He didn't counter that by saying, who's to say she's not rooming with you at the school or something. He didn't really counter the fact that she's, peeping in on him and being creepy. So there's a lot of stuff of Cameron's that just was able to stand without any real thing against it. So I voted for Cameron.
Kirk.
This was a very interesting argument because it was one of those situations where I think on paper, Cam has the much more superior argument. And he was very confident, maybe too confident, and he left Barr a lot of openings. Unfortunately, Barr took advantage of none of them. He said, Holtzman saying, she's Hogwarts, blah, 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 she's at Hogwarts. She only spent 9 months out of her life at Hogwarts. It's probably not the 9 months you're rooming with her. He said that, Cameron said something about you're not committing any active crimes. This is a person who makes anything that she doesn't like officially a crime. And then the one thing Cam really hit me with was he said she was motherly. And I wrote on my board, motherly ? And, Barr could have very, very easily came back and said, she canonically tortures children. And I think torture is a much worse thing than being judgy, which is what Barr leaned very heavily in. So I think Barr had a lot of opportunities he'd take advantage of. I don't know if he would have won, but it would have been much closer if he would have.
I also voted for Cammy Holtzman. I thought that I didn't think Barr's argument was as bad as Kirk just made it out to me, but I see where Kirk was coming from. But I thought Barr did a good job. He actually I thought this was very close personally. And maybe it's just the like optimist that I'm like always like, they're doing so great. Everyone's so close. But I thought it was close, and Barr was convincing me because like I agree that on paper, Moaning Myrtle is just like, yeah, didn't even think about that one. Maybe I should have said no ghosts, but Holtzman
From now on,
convinced-
living
I thought
human
about
characters.
I thought about bringing that up, but I decided to be nice.
Yeah, I thought
The
I
problem
thought
was my
Holtzman-
other character's a werewolf, and that would have also maybe been disqualified.
I probably would have disqualified that. But this was great. I thought this was a really good fight. But yeah, I did go with Holtzman, which means Holtzman is up 2-1.
There's a reason that
Barr
that
didn't
was
bring up
not
the
my
scariest
strength.
thing he had against Dolores Umbridge, which was cats.
Cats. So we're moving into the final prep question. Barr needs to hit this in order to send it to the speed round.
I'm just
So-
glad to get this far.
The question, which was drafted by Barr in the category of classics, what is the most rewatchable classic Audrey Hepburn film?
Great thing I rewatched both of these twice. 'cause I-
So, Barr, you get to kick this one off. You get 1 minute when you start talking.
What are the things that we tend to rewatch over and over and over and over again? It's comfort films. And I can't think of a better comfort film starring Audrey Hepburn than Roman Holiday. It is a simple yet effective story about two people who find love and find that they cannot be together because of forces outside of their outside of their like outside of what they can do. Audrey Hepburn and Gregory Peck are just so utterly charming. They're immediately likable. They immediately grab you in with how much you want to root for them. The soft focus camera lenses just really add this wonderful, beautiful imagery that is like a warm blanket every time you watch that movie. It's one I can watch over and over and over and over and over again. And I have.
All right. We're going to move over to Holtzman. Holtzman, you get. Oh, is he missing for everyone, or is it just me? All right, Holtzman, now that you're here, you get 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
I think the biggest thing with a movie being rewatchable is that it needs to not get stale on repeat viewings. You need a movie that continues to get interesting, that allows you to continue noticing different things, so you can continue to rewatch it and view it through a different lens and find something new, find something interesting about it. And that's why I picked Charade. Charade is a really interesting mix between a romantic comedy and a noir mystery that combines the two of those genres into something really, really interesting. The twists and the turns make it an exciting watch on your first viewing, but every time you watch it again, you can view it through a different lens, looking at a different character, looking at a different identity of Cary Grant, and find this new thing to watch, find this new thing to see. The way the narrative unfolds is incredibly satisfying the first time you see it, but when you catch those small details on a second, third, fourth, even 10th viewing, it makes it that much better, that much nicer, and that much more enjoyable to watch, to the point where you don't feel like you're wasting your time and just seeing the same thing over and over and over again. It blends the tones of the two genres that it's doing extremely well, which keeps it fresh, keeps it interesting, keeps it innovative and different from the thing that you're watching over and over and over again in other times. There's a lot of great jokes, great humor, great mystery, great visuals, and a bunch more.
Okay. We're going to bring in Barr. All right. So we will get into the 5 minute free form. Gentlemen, 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
So the twist and the turns in Charade actually hinders how many times you can rewatch it. Because after a while, you're like, all right, I've gotten everything. I know where this is going. I know how this works. Whereas with mine, it's a simple film. It's an elegantly told, simple film that everyone can relate to, even with the whole pressures of having so many people like force things onto you and wanting to break away from that. We all feel that. I don't feel the stress of being chased for money that I don't know where that is.
Okay, but the thing you're saying is that the twists and the turns, eventually you know how they go, but you have enough rewatches where you see those small details, you figure out the new things, how they are indicating these things before you. You can capture these new details. Roman Holiday is straightforward from the jump. You can't say that Charade is bad because it eventually gets straightforward when Roman Holiday is that the entire time. As well, you're saying you love Roman Holiday because it's comforting. You want a movie that feels like a warm blanket. I'm sorry, but there's nothing about getting my heart broken at the end of a film that's comforting to me. Nothing that's comforting on repeat viewings about seeing these people who have amazing chemistry not end up together. If I'm going to keep rewatching it, I want it to be something that makes me feel good, makes me feel happy at the end of the movie. The ending is where you need to stick the landing. And if I leave that movie at the very end feeling heartbroken or unsatisfied, I'm not going to want to rewatch it. Charade, you have these beautiful visuals, these beautiful colors reminiscent of a Jacques Demy film, these bright popping visuals, this beautiful direction. The costumes are incredible. All these visual stylings that you can see, all these small visual details that indicate things you don't even notice earlier. The Punch and Judy scene, it took until my third viewing of Charade to understand the significance of how that fits into the story, what it's telling us earlier on in the film that we can pick up on later. All these small details are littered throughout the movie, and every time you rewatch it, you pick up on more of them because that's what's great about noirs and mysteries.
All these small details that I picked up by the fourth viewing. Whereas with Roman Holiday, I want to bring up the ending since you brought up the ending. What makes that ending comforting is the fact that the two of them are okay with the situation at hand. They are okay with knowing that they had this beautiful moment together, and even though they can't be together completely, they are going to enjoy the moment that they had together, and it will be sitting with them forever. Oh my God, what a life lesson that I have learned over and over again. And when I get my heart broken, I want to watch a movie where I know that that kind of love still exists in the world. I'm not going to watch a movie where my anxiety that's already high makes it even higher, and I don't want to rewatch that.
See, but you just said you've learned that lesson over and over and over again. As a person who teaches junior high and high school students, there's nothing they hate more than me telling them the same thing over and over and over again. You want to get on with it. You don't want to keep learning the same thing every time because eventually you start to get pessimistic and annoyed with that message, or you start to just not believe in it entirely. With Charade, you have those great moments. You can view it through the different lenses of all the different identities that Cary Grant is playing. You can view it through the perspective of Audrey Hepburn's character. You can view it through the perspective of Walter Matthau's character. All these different ways that you can look at this movie. Roman Holiday, in fact, wastes a lot of its runtime. Its opening, nothing really actually happens that moves the plot forward in any way for a solid 10% of the movie's runtime. Nothing happens for the first 8 minutes of the movie. The main characters don't even really meet for the first 20% of the movie, when that's what it's entirely supposed to be about, and it's wasting time. There's so many moments littered throughout where they're wasting time, and you can say, oh, it's these shots of Italy, yada, yada, yada. But when I'm rewatching something I've already seen, I don't need it to just build and be slow and build this world. I just want to live in the world and get back to it. Charade has its world. It sets it up right out the gate, and it runs with it and goes full speed ahead, leaving all these things for you to find and see on consecutive rewatches.
You brought up how Roman Holiday straightforward from the jump. You know what? You know what is easier to get into? Something that's straightforward from the jump instead of these twisty and turns and things like that. You are getting to know these characters in that first 20 minutes. You are getting to relate to them. You are getting to connect to them. And that connection that you share with these characters is something that's actually very special. You brought up all the different characters that Cary Grant plays. He's one character, and he's just like pretending to be other characters.
Yes,
All
but those different identities are identities that
you talked about a minute and a half just recently. All these different characters, they're the same character. He's just playing charming, smug Cary Grant. These characters are not different characters that you're trying to create in this moment.
I'm not claiming they're different characters. What I'm claiming is you can look at each one of those as being potentially the true identity.
Time. Okay. So we will start with Holzmann on this one to close. Holzmann, you get 1 minute to close when you start talking.
Barr says that at the end of Roman Holiday, the characters are okay, but I don't want to rewatch it if the characters are okay, but I'm not. My emotional state is what matters when it's choosing whether to press play or press pause. As well, he talks about on your first watch, it's very straightforward, and it's straightforward on the next watch, and the next watch, and the next watch, and it's the same, and it gets repetitive, and it gets boring, and it wastes a lot of its time. Charade is a movie that benefits and gets better and better every time you rewatch it. It makes you want to rewatch, to find those small details, to find those new things, to see this interesting mystery, to see the different perspectives of these different characters, to see the beautiful visuals, the great comedy, the interesting romance that is far more interesting, far more dynamic, and far more entertaining and not depressing like the one in Roman Holiday. I want a movie that makes me feel good. I want a movie that makes me feel smart. I want a movie that is entertaining, comedic, funny, fun, and overall entertaining, rewatchable, and gives me something new every time I see it. I do not want to see the same thing that wastes my time and is straightforward and does nothing new, no matter how many times I watch it, because I will get bored out of my mind. Charade is the rewatchable movie.
Time. Okay. So we'll bring in Barr. Barr, you get 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
Straightforward is a lot easier to watch. My movie also has beautiful visuals and funny jokes, so that's null and void. Cam talks about his emotional state when going into a movie. My emotional state is consistently anxious. So I'm not going to watch a movie over and over and over again that makes me more anxious. You see plenty of little visual cues that you pick up on every time you watch Roman Holiday as well. Just from the way that the one barber interacts with her, the way that the spies come in towards the end. And why do we watch things like The Office and Friends over and over and over and over and over again? Is because they are comfort watches. There is no better comfort watch of an Audrey Hepburn film than a romance between her and Gregory Peck, where the chemistry is just bursting off of the screen, and you're just falling in love with these two as you get to grow and develop with them. We rewatch things because they're comforting, and we comfort because we rewatch them over and over.
Interesting how Barr uses his full time on the Audrey Hepburn question. Anyway, so
It's almost like he likes her or something.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, weird.
It's almost like he drafted the category.
I drafted classics actually, and then they randomly picked an Audrey Hepburn question because they.
Judges ready?
Yeah.
This was interesting. I thought that they kind of both took it in different ways. Like I didn't specify like rewatchable in what way, but Barr kind of took the approach of like what's a comfort movie that's just easy to watch, like makes you feel good and is straightforward and just entertaining. Whereas Holzmann took it in a way that was like something that has twists and turns you pick up on more upon rewatching it, and you're looking for little new details each time you watch it to change the movie. So I thought that was interesting, and it made for an interesting fight. I thought though that at the end of the day, I went with Barr. I thought that his explanation of, I thought he was able to take down Holtzmann's jabs, a lot of like, oh, they don't even like end up together at the end of the film and like stuff like that. Like I thought Barr was able to pretty concisely say why the end of the movie is still something that makes it a feel-good movie and a positive ending, and something that can be just enjoyed over and over again at ease, and that there's too much like almost like stress going back and forth to Charade. So I thought it was close, like I always say. I do think it was close, but I gave the edge to Barr. And it probably helps that I would rather watch the was talking about. I've never seen either of these films.
Oh, watch them both. They're fantastic.
I've heard they're both fantastic. A friend of mine's been trying to get me to watch Charade for years, but the idea of just the calm, something that just makes you feel happy and good, that's where I'm at when I'm looking for something rewatchable. So, Brian, where'd you vote?
What is that snapping, by the way?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Damn it.
Tim likes to call everything close, no matter how much of a landslide it is. However, this time I think this was actually the closest one of the night. And part of that is because, as Tim said, you guys took very different approaches. One was looking at more as a comfort movie rewatch. The other person took it more as, you can rewatch it, you can pick up on new things like that. In the end, I went for Cam again. For
Just
me,
get Brian to judge every Fanzone match ever.
I didn't say I agree with it. I just said the debate. I think worked out in your favor. I think there were two things especially that tipped me in Kim's favor. One was that he talked about how if you're looking for a comfort movie, he doesn't want to watch one that ends with heartbreaking and downer ending. It's kind of like it kind of defeats the purpose of the comfort. But the second thing is, I think once again Andrew helped support his argument because Cameron talked about how you can watch the movie and pick up on all these new details. At which point Andrew said, "Yeah, all details I picked up by the fourth viewing," which tells me he thought it was rewatchable at least 3 more times.
Minimum.
Interesting. Kirk, are we going to the speed round?
I think this was legitimately very close, and I had one person in the lead, slightly going in the closing, but it was ultimately decided by the closing, and I went with Barr. I think what happened is, like I said, they were both covered with good arguments, but Cam was dominating the what is rewatchable argument because Barr wasn't, because Cam was giving a very good job talking about how all the different reasons why charade is more rewatchable and why that type of movie is more rewatchable, and that had him over the edge. But what hit at the end when Barr, in his closing, said we rewatched The Office 1,000 times, we rewatched Friends 1,000 times. It's a straightforward thing that we know and we've seen, but it's comforting, and that was enough to give Barr the better reason to rewatch in my mind. So, go with Barr.
I'm so glad I saved that argument until the end.
It's almost like it's unfair that I can't rebut his ending.
So
give me 10 seconds and I'll call him a bitch.
All right. We're going to move on. Speed round. First speed round of the year, believe it or not. We haven't had one of these in a hot second. So this is how it's going to work. I randomized Fandom and Warzone. I'm still going to call it Warzone over here because we're not changing it to Fanlay. Yeah. Or
Menzone.
Maydum. No.
I just realized I combined the May and then the zone.
Mayzone. Anyway, so I randomized the two sides of Fanzone to get one of those to pick a category from. I randomized the categories in that side to get the category for the bonus question.
I'm scared about this.
So I am going to say the question. Then I will repeat the question. After I've said it the second time, you will then get to decide your answers. Whoever says their answer first will be going first in the debate. Each of you will get 45 seconds, and then each of you will get 30 seconds. You can use your time however you wish. Do you guys have any questions about how it's going to go?
How much is this going to hurt?
Probably a lot. So it's coming from the melee side of things.
Oh, thank God.
And the category is sci-fi fantasy.
Fuck.
Okay.
And the question is, what is the most disappointing sci-fi sequel? Again, what is the most disappointing sci-fi sequel?
Highlander 2, The Quickening.
Okay.
Yeah, this would count. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
One of the franchises I was waiting for someone to say.
Right? I was like,
I was
not
like,
anymore.
I kept scrolling past because I was like, no, but
All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to stay on screen to give you guys your countdowns. Barr, you said your answer first, so you're going to be going first. Are we understanding of the rules?
Yeah.
All right. So Barr, when you're ready, go for it. 45 seconds to start.
So with Highlander 2, The Quickening, it's just a very, very lame remake of a movie that has a giant cult following. There's even a joke in Talladega Nights about it being dubbed the greatest movie ever made. First of all, The Quickening, lame title already, stupid. There's an artificial ozone called the Shield. I don't want an environmental message in my Highlander sequel. And the plot is that he's an old man because there's no other immortals for him to fight. So he's an old man for most of it. Oh, and then like another immortals come, like, oh wow, how fucking original. Give him something new. Give us something more exciting. I don't want your ozone shit shoved in my face.
Time. All right. Holtzmann, whenever you're ready, 45 seconds.
In 2015, Jurassic World came back and rebooted the Jurassic Park franchise. It gave us hope. It gave us a good movie that did great critically, great box office wise, and gave us a brand new franchise with new leads, new action, new dinosaurs, and ramped up the stakes. And then Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom came out and absolutely shat the bed. They told us they were bringing back Ian Malcolm, bringing back characters from the original, and that they were going to use them, and they underutilized them, and it was incredibly boring, incredibly uninteresting. It didn't ramp up the stakes. It just put us back where we were with all the same people, all the same dinosaurs, and then wastes all of its new potential and all of its old potential that it had set up. It is disappointing because we had something great and we got something terrible that we were told was going to be great. Highlander 2: The Quickening was not disappointing because people don't totally care about the first Highlander anyways. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, far more disappointing, which is the question.
Time. Barr, 30 seconds.
The question is most disappointing, and if you wanted to pick that, you should have just picked Jurassic World. People were disappointed with Jurassic World already. The expectations for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom were kind of low because of that, and they did utilize the characters. It's not like they weren't in the movie. Where it was mine, man, the fact that you do not get Christopher Lambert at his action best throughout the entire movie, such a disappointment. And they're trying to force a message on you, and we don't want that in a sci-fi action, like, awesome movie.
Holtzmann, 30 seconds.
The problem is Highlander 2: The Quickening is not disappointing because the original Highlander is not a movie that had much hype or acclaim behind it. It had a small cult following that some people were disappointed by, but the general populace wasn't. Nobody really cared about the first one. It was bad, but it wasn't disappointing. The original one was a box office failure with low critical and commercial scores and success. Jurassic World made $1.6 billion, was a sequel and part of the biggest franchise of all time, arguably, and it shit the bed getting back all of the good things it needed, getting a director who had directed phenomenal films, getting back the actors, and it just wasted all of the talent.
All right. Bring in the judges to close out this debate. For the record, the ones that were the two that popped into my brain right away were 2010, the year we made contact, and Independence Day 2, or whatever the fuck that movie was called.
Mine were Independence Day Resurgence and Bill and Ted Face the Music, just saying.
Oh, Bill and Ted. Yeah, that would have been a good one too. Yeah.
Okay, but one of those is a good movie.
Okay, I should probably write an answer down. Oh, and also, if you really wanted to piss people off, you could have picked Back to the Future 3.
I would no, not at a shot.
It's not the worst. It's not the worst Back to the Future. Don't at me.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. No,
You could have done either.
See, Brian was erasing, which means my name's on his board. I like it, Brian.
God damn it!
I pretended to erase.
Okay. Kirk, you kick this off.
Okay. Yeah, tough question. Ultimately, I went with Cam. I think Barr did the right thing, and I agree with him that this is what I was waiting for him to say. He said that the disappointment was Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom. The expectations were already low, but unfortunately, he didn't give me enough as to why Highlander 2 was a disappointment. He talked a lot about how it was a bad movie. Didn't give me a lot about disappointment. So it was a good fight. It was close, but I had to go with Cam.
Sorry, I was talking to my wife. What? You have pizza in the oven?
No, from Sunday.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry. Okay. It smells really smoky in my house.
I love conversations with Maggie.
It's one of our favorite things. I went with Cam.
Okay.
I think that Cam kind of nailed this one on the head. I am one of the people that loves Jurassic World, the 2015 one. Think the movie's fucking dope. No expectations going into that movie, and I loved it. And so I thought he perfectly encapsulated the fact that Fallen Kingdom came out, and he gave very specific examples of the potential that it wasted to make it disappointing, by bringing up Ian Malcolm, by bringing up the cool dinosaurs, by bringing up the fact that the first movie was this $2 billion like crazy successful.
The note I wrote for Fallen Kingdom was 1.6 billion.
And I thought that Barr did a good job of saying why the Highlander 2 movie was maybe really bad but not disappointing, which sucks. But that's how I felt about it. Brian, where would you have voted?
I would like to point out to Andrew that my vote does not count.
Oh my god!
This is the only match where I think I've ever gone all one person, but I really am just
Get
judging
that
by
guy every match though.
Ryan,
I'm
if
just
if
judging by the
Multiplex
arguments.
had like the MySpace top 7 friends, you just moved into the top 7.
Go ahead, Brian.
I am not biased. I'm judging purely by the argument. Honestly, I was all ready to vote against Cameron because I like Fallen Kingdom a lot more than most people. I think if he was going to pick one, he should have picked Dominion. But then when Andrew tried to attack it by saying you should have picked Jurassic World, the first one, I thought that was odd because that's largely considered the second best Jurassic Park movie by a lot of people. So I thought that was a little weird, but I think that mostly Cameron was able to still support his, and then we talked about how Highlander is more of a, it's got its fans, but it's kind of a niche, like small cult following. So it's not as big a disappointment on a large scale as Jurassic World was.
All right, well, that means your winner is Cameron Holzmann. Moving on to round 2 of the tournament. We're going to start by talking to Barr. Barr, great match. A lot of those, in my opinion, were close. I thought you played really, really well. Brian is going to hide away from you. But this was a great debate. You brought up a lot of stuff and took some questions in different ways than I think a lot of us were expecting, and I thought that helped in your favor, especially on that like Hepburn question. So, and you even won a question that you did not draft as well, which is very hard to do right out of the gate. So, how are you feeling about the match overall?
So I can't say that I didn't see me losing coming. There's a reason I'm the 14 seed is because I'm not really good at arguing.
No.
It does make it a lot more disappointing that I made it to the speed round. That's the thing that hurts. Because I'm what, like 2-5 now or something like that?
You are 2-4.
Yeah.
With a knockout.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking. But I don't want to take away from Cam because Cam, the moment that I got put in the room with him, I was like, I'm fucked. Cam did debate in high school. Like I never was taught the art of debate. And the one time someone tried, I failed miserably. So congrats to Cam. This kind of hurts, but not because of the reason you think it hurts.
That's fair. This does mean that you're out of the tournament, but I would like to see you back post-tournament. Barr, is there anybody that you want to go up against when you come back?
Somebody that I can win against?
That's fair. You want to play Maggie? Or you can play my baby. You want to play the baby?
I am not yelling at a baby. I only do that on Sundays.
She'll scream back, Maggie says. So, yeah. How about this?
All right, I like a challenge.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, let's see what kind of questions we can give you guys. Barr, I truly
Who's the best baby genius?
There you go. We got to get Jake Marangoni in on that one. Great job today, Barr. I think you did great. Let's bring in the winner, Cameron Holtzmann. Cameron.
The best baby genius is Boo Burkala, as pitched by one Caleb Coho.
Her name is not going to be Boo. So great match.
Only because Maggie shot it down.
A back and forth one, but one that ultimately paid off for you. You're now 4-2 moving into round number 2 of the tournament. How you feeling about the match?
I feel good. First things first, I want to say to Andrew Barr, shut up. Stop doing the thing you do after every match where you go, I'm not that good at this, whether you win or lose. You're good at this. I said at the beginning, number 14 is a misleading seed for you. You are good at this. You won 2 rounds. If you were bad at this, you would win 0 rounds. You are good. Admit it to yourself because everyone else here knows it. Shut up. Number 2. I feel good. I think, like Barr said, I used to take debate and I take things from that and I take those strategies that I learned many, many years ago and I put as many of them as I can into my notes and into my prep for this. But I never take anyone lightly. I never take any argument lightly. Even the arguments where I feel super confident in my pick or I feel super confident in my knowledge, I prep my ass off. And even in some of those rounds, Barr was able to find his way in and beat me at those debates, and deservedly so. But I was able to pull it out in the end. It took me 4 damn ever to pick a thing in the speed round, but once I picked it, I had everything I needed. And sometimes that's what this is. As much as it can be seen in a lot of my things, I talk very quickly and I talk a lot. Sometimes what you need to win in this is to just wait and listen and find the right time and have the patience to make sure you're making the right move. And I was able to do that in that final speed round. I was able to do that a couple times within the debate. And yeah, it was a hell of a match. It was a knockdown, drag-out fight all the way through, unless you're Brian Michaels, in which case this was an absolute massacre. But yeah, no, I feel good. This is a great match, and I'm excited to get to do more of this.
Yep, we get to see you pretty soon here. You are going up against either the number 6 or the number 11 seed, the number 6 seed being Nazario Montenegro, or the number 11 seed, which is Joe Farrelly. Which one do you want?
It's interesting because I played Joe before, and I think it was a really good match. And I would like to play him again because I know he's capable of a stronger performance than we saw in the first time we played. We've debated before in other places, and it went a different way. But Nazario is someone that I got this close to being able to face off against. It came down to the speed round in me v. Robert Parker, and I lost in a split decision. And had I won that, I would have gotten to face Nazario. And Nazario is, say what you will about Nazario, Nazario knows how to just say things loudly and make them sound appealing as arguments.
Yes.
Regardless of how sensible they are, in the moment, they sound like they make sense until you think about it after you've already finished the round and you're 2 rounds later.
That's fair.
And I think that Nazario could not be further from my style of debate than anyone in this community.
That's
and
fair.
I think it would be a very interesting match. So I'll take either of them, but I think me and Nazario is probably the match that the people that aren't named Tim Bercalo want to see.
Yeah, that's fair. Holzmann, great job. We'll see you in round number 2. Congrats on the win. Let's get final thoughts, starting with Kirk.
No, solid match. It was close. I think there were a few. I just think there were a couple. Especially in the Harry Potter. I think Barr just had. Cameron just had so much more knowledge in the movies of that. But I think it's close. And Barr's getting closer. He's talking about how, he's talking down himself, like Kevin said, but I think he's getting close. I think he's getting to the point where he could take that next level, that next step, and start to, win some matches here. And congratulations to Cam. He played well. And I think he's another person he's the number 3 for a reason, and he can go deep in this tournament.
Brian, final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where, despite my votes, I think it was a lot closer than it looked. I think the individual questions, I think a lot of them were very close. It's just a matter of, no matter whose pick I agree with, I'm going to vote based on the debate. Even if it, a series of votes makes me look like I'm biased a certain way, I'm not going to throw a vote the other way just to, even it out. And in this case, it just Cameron edged him out, in my opinion, in most of those, in all the questions. So, but Andrew didn't do a bad job at all. It just leaned a little bit towards Cameron's way.
Yeah, for the record, this is the closest match of the season. Every other match this season, the score has been 3-1, 4-1, 3-1, 3-1. This is the first time it was a 3-2 going to the bonus round. So this was, by the definition, the closest match of the season so far. I also would like to point out that while I have been sitting here on camera for the last 30 minutes straight, my wife just came downstairs and said, "Do you know where my ring is?" Lady, I've been sitting here for 30 minutes straight in front of the camera. This was a great match. Thank you guys for being a part of it. Can't wait to see the next one. I know it was a long one, so for those of you who watched till the end, thank you. Thank you to the judges for being here and the players for being here for the long haul. Very much appreciate it. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Actually, I want to take that back. We'll see you guys next week for the next match. We got the number 4 seed Rue Moses going up against the 13 seed Tyler Birch. So we'll see you in next week for that. Until then, have a good one. Bye.
There we go. Thank you very much. Please come again. We have a lot more groceries.